Help me ducks, it's Simon here. Welcome back to the Hermit's Cave. So today I thought we could take a look at the Tarot Original 1909, the circular edition. I should have checked really, but I know that this in the UK isn't available until something like March, which is very bizarre because if you do go onto Amazon, even the UK Amazon, there is an option to buy it. Which I believe is coming from Amazon.com, so from the US, and it's at no extra cost and the shipping is free if you are an Amazon Prime customer like I am. So you don't need to wait, basically. It did say it was coming around the 15th to the 19th and we're only at the 6th, so I think I only ordered this a little over a week ago and it's already here. So that's really interesting. And quite a nice surprise that it ships so fast from the US. So this deck was released earlier this year, which is the Tarot Original 1909 by Lo Scarabeo. I have done a walkthrough of it. I've shared my thoughts about it. It's not my favourite, and it's certainly not the 1909. Some people are saying it's a Pam C or a Pam D or but it's based on, you know, the original kind of RWS, but it's not the 1909 edition per se. I'm really intrigued about this because this looks like a really large deck and I'm wondering how they've been able to take the artwork, Pixie's artwork, and put it into a circular deck, because there's very few pictures of this when you do go to purchase it. So let's dive in and see what we get. This is my first circular RWS, or whether it will set a trend and we'll start to see more of them, I don't know. I do have circular decks. I'm not, I say I'm not keen. That's not exactly true. I've got the Circle of Life in both the first and second editions and I really like that tarot. I've also got Mother Peace. I don't use Mother Peace that much, if I'm honest. And then the only other circular decks, you know, is the Magic one by Rockpool with the sigils, which I quite like. And I did have Kim Kranz's archetypes, which I gave away. So the box is really nice, actually. It's got like a linen finish. It feels like really good quality. Quite nice. There's a few little dings in it from transportation, but it's not too bad. And it just says Tarot Original 1909 circular edition, Arthur E. Waite and Pamela C. Smith. Sasha Graham has written the little book. Now there is a third edition of this deck which has this tarot but the big book, so it actually comes in one of the sets. You know, or they're called tarot kits, aren't they, with the deck and the large book. That's also on my Amazon wish list and I'll probably get that in the new year. Not because I want another deck, because I'm happy with just this one. It'll act as a backup, but I'm quite interested to read the big book, particularly as this is purporting to be the 1909. So I want to see what they say about that. So it's in 2 parts, which is really nice. It's very easy to open. On the back, it says Lo Scarabeo, Tarot Original 1909 Circular Edition. Again, it credits Arthur Edward Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith. 78 round cards with instructions, a companion booklet by Sasha Graham. Is Sasha Graham credited with the little white book here? I'm not sure if she is or not, or whether this is kind of just a standard. Yes, instructions by Sasha Graham. So I've just sat and put all these back in order as well. That's always fun to do. Every time you go to make a video, you get all set up, you think you're ready to go, and then you open the deck and you realise it's out of order. I like these, but they've got quite a gloss to them, but they feel less glossy on the back. It's quite strange. Looking at this, particularly when you see the High Priestess here, what they've done is they've took artistic license and they've either, which is looking like they've done a mirror image here for the Chariot card. Oh no, actually they've just extended, although it does look mirror image. But it looks like they've used another artist to continue the work to fit the circular dimensions, which I thought would be the case. And that's not the first time this has been done. The Centennial Tarot by US Games, when they brought out the borderless edition, they also added additional artwork to it. Okay, so the cards aren't as big as the box indicates because there's quite a lot of packaging in here, which is quite nice actually, because it's quite sturdy, and it's got this lovely like velvet. This is the little book. There's a lift up ribbon. That's actually really nice. It's nice velvet. This wasn't an expensive deck, to be honest. So we get Tarot Original 1909 Circular Edition by Sasha Graham. It is in multiple languages, which is what you always get with Los Scarabeo. I wonder if it says anything here about... So it says here, this deck is so called because its art is reproduced as it was first released in December 1909. So they're not claiming it to be a facsimile of a 1909 deck. What they're saying is that it's reproduced as it was released in December 1909 by Ryder. Circle edition. I want to just see if it says anything about additional art used, etc. Okay, so it does actually mention the additional art, which I'll come to. But I want to read this bit because it's quite interesting, because it's talking about a rectangular shape having kind of masculine qualities and a circular shape having feminine qualities. So that's intrigued me. So I thought I'll just share that because I think it's quite important. So it says, a circular tarot deck reveals the holistic nature of tarot. It is commonplace for tarot cards to take on four-cornered rectangular shape, not unlike the dimensions of a cellular phone. Obviously, standard rectangular cards make ease for stacking and shuffling. They follow in line with centuries of playing card designs, which also embrace the solid and masculine nature of the four-cornered cards, which, by way, aligns with the stable qualities of the Emperor. However, we can understand much better the holistic nature of the card when it appears to us in a feminine and circular shape. How interesting. Our minds are sensitive to symbols, even more so when reading tarot, as symbols, interpretations is one of tarot's engines of power. When interpreting a circular card, a softer approach is encouraged and rough edges are smoothed away. The strict division as when a card is upright and when it's upside down fades away, replaced by a nuanced feeling. It feels almost as if the figures in the cards are leaning towards one another. So we've talked about that a lot with decks that are circular, you know, and the position is the fool leaning towards or away from. And that's quite, like it says, quite nuanced with your card readings. While a rectangular shape suggests an intense, active, direct masculine focus on the figures in the foreground, the round shape suggests a more gestalt attention to the feelings received by the whole cards. The landscape is wider and offers greater perspective. The focus of the card becomes holistic, receptive, intuitive, feminine. Is it better or worse? It's different. The circular edition is not meant to change tarot, but rather to provide inspiration and transform the perceptive habit the readers may have unconsciously created when looking at the cards. Now, this is where it talks about the additional artwork. So it says, whilst the original art is from Pamela Coleman Smith, the transformation of the cards in circular shape has been painstakingly done by Pietro Aligo and Chiara Demagistri. You can use these circular cards to dive deep into the mystery of who you are, discover what treasures lay inside, and explore what is possible. You can move inward towards complexity or outward towards possibility. I really like that. Or do each simultaneously. Whilst the rectangular shape aligns with the Emperor and the fours, the circular aligns with the Fool card or the zero. The Fool is both the beginning and end of a tarot deck. The Fool carries all future potentials and the entire tarot deck inside of him. Tarot springs from the Fool and all cards return to him when the cycle completes. So I really like that. That's really interesting to get Sasha's perspective on that. So the rest of the book has how to read a circular deck. So it talks about different positions, opposition, delay, blockage, extra attention. I love this. We've got almost like a clock here. 12, 3, 6, 9. We've got future, challenge, shadow self, and past. Again, which way is the card, the archetype in the card leaning towards? So you can see here, upright, ideals, beliefs, future, unconscious as it coming down, and past events if they're going towards towards the 9 o'clock position. And then we've got these attracted cards, example of attracted cards. So when they're together, repulsed, going in completely opposite polar directions, whereas the attracted cards are coming together. You see the heads are very close. So attracted and repulsed. This is quite interesting. Converging, they're just starting to come together. And diverging, going away. This is really interesting. How to lay a spread, crafting effective questions, etc., etc. And then we go into the suits and the meanings. And remember, this is multiple languages, so. All right, so let's have a look. I'm just gonna have a drink of my coffee. So let's get this open. I like the backs. They're quite in keeping. So this is the backs, which is very similar to the backs, although more kind of enlarged, that we had with Los Scarabaeo's Pamela Coleman Smith Tarot, affectionately called in the community the Dirty Pam. Very similar to that. And you can see what they've done here. They've kind of just made it into a pattern going in the 4 directions. So you've got like a cross in the middle with 4 in each direction. So I like that. I like what they've done there. And it's this centerpiece here that's replicated on this back design. Sounds like these need a little bit of a... So you just love doing that. So in terms of card size, they're shorter than a tarot deck, but obviously much wider. So that's the base point, as you can see here. But they're a nice size to have in the hand. This is just a title card. Pop that in the box. What's at the bottom? Okay, we've got our King of Swords, so there's just one additional card. So let's bring the camera down and we'll have a bit of a closer look at what's going on here. Okay. So this, do you know what this actually reminds me of? When we pathwork with a card, take for example the Fool. You've got your portal here, your doorway into the world of the Fool. And when you step into the card and you do pathworking, you do look around and you explore. And how many times have we noticed just this little part of some sort of outhouse building type thing, this little structure here. But of course, now in this image, we get a much fuller picture. Again, we have to remember that anything additional to the card isn't Pixie's artwork. It's by the two people mentioned earlier. But we've actually got a blushing fool. Cardstock is really nice. It's springy, it's good quality, typical of Lo Scarabeo. It actually feels nicer. Or am I just imagining that? It's probably pretty much the same. And in fact, in some aspects, we've lost a little bit of artwork. Do you see the kind of Alps here at the bottom, these hills? We've only got this little bit here. So I guess it swings and roundabouts. What I'm pleased about, because when the borderless Centennial was designed, this kind of hanging of flowers above was just suspended in midair, and it looked awful, and I found it really off-putting. Whereas here it's been done a lot nicer. It comes fully around, but you know, it's not just hanging in midair. And you see the whole table, more or less. You see where the end of the wand finishes in this card. In fact, I'm going to pause and see if I can find that card to show you from the Centennial. Okay, so this is the Centennial with the darker green. This is the borderless Centennial with the darker green. It was more of a duck egg blue on the original, and they removed the borders. But do you see what I mean? What they did here was just have this kind of suspended in midair, just not attached to anything. And yeah. Whereas here, as I said, it's finished off nicely, and it still looks like it's hanging from, you know, some overhead kind of scaffold. And again, this, because the borders were moved, then removed, I should say, then there is an artist that filled in the little bits extra, like what has happened here. So I just wanted to share that because I think this version has been done better so far. Okay, so that's our magician. Oh wow, look at this. Wow, who knew? I mean, I get it. I get the water element with our High Priestess. And you can see in the background here, behind the pillar, that there is water. And we've picked up on that on things like Jen's Tarot Playdate. But look at this scene. Wow. Quite a difference. And it brings in. It makes you... I mean, how many people have actually studied and seen that there is water in that tiny little, two tiny gaps there? But you can't, it's unmistakable here, you can't miss it. So I think that this would add to readings, having these little nuances. Our Empress is much closer up here. We've got less of the foreground like we have in the original. And she's beautiful. I think this is such a beautiful card. You see more of this flowing river coming through this woodland area than you do here. Our Emperor, and look at the kind of the rocky terrain here. I'm fascinated by this. And I know this isn't going to be, oh, this is interesting. This is very interesting, having these symbols added. I know this isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea, and there's going to be tarot purists out there that will think that this is an abomination, I'm sure. But you know what? You know, decks are being made all the time, aren't they, with people's own kind of interpretations. So that's how I'm looking at it. And as it said in the guidebook, it's not trying to reinvent tarot, it's just a different aspect. Again, we get to see so much more of the angel wings here, almost the full span. And it does, it just reminds me of seeing a fuller picture. I think the artists who have collaborated and worked on this have done a phenomenal job, actually, to keep it, you know, in keeping. We looked at this card, didn't we, on the back. We see more of this township in the background where the chariot is making its journey from. Our strength card. It's going to be very interesting reading with these, you know, if they are leaning in certain directions, especially using that little guidebook. All the hermits had some stars added. Yeah, I mean, you could actually recreate this deck, this card I should say, without the stars, because you'd still get your hermit, but it does give you that sense of this being a night sky, and therefore, you know, because a lot of people said they felt that he was in a cave or something like that, but clearly when you see an image like this, it's the night sky. Strange choice of colour for a night sky, but it's a snowy filled night sky. Here's our Wheel of Fortune. I've only just noticed as well that there's no titles. Why did I not notice before now? I'm so used to these images that I didn't even notice that the titles are missing, but no titles, just the numbers. So probably a not, I was going to say not a deck for beginners, but only because of the titles, really. Justice. Again, we get this landscape in the background. It would have been quite nice to see the sun depicted here, because I remember studying the Justice card and the fact that this veil was there to block out the light, but the sword of truth goes above. So it'd have been nice to see that it goes above the veil and, you know, is lit by the sun, as in lit by illumination, and being able to see things more clearly. Hanged Man, it's not much difference with our Hanged Man, other than Pixie's signature is missing. I'm not sure why, because it does appear in other cards, so I'm not quite sure why it's been removed on the Hangman. Death. Wow, we see nearly the full horse. Love it. There's not much difference. I mean, all you've got here really is a continuation of what started here. But it just seems like it's zoomed in, and it's not really, but seeing more of the horse. It's almost like it's got room to breathe now. When I look at it here, it feels quite cramped. Isn't that funny? Because, you know, this is an image that's ingrained on my mind, and I know pretty much every detail about it. But it just feels like it's been freed. You know, when we talk about removing borders and we free the images, being able to see more of this. Wow, I love that wingspan. They have done such a good job because it is so in keeping. You wouldn't know that there's multiple artists that have worked on this. Gorgeous. The devil. Interesting, these little petals. I think they're petals. Tower. Yeah, so on some cards the signature is missing, but not on all of them. I would have liked the consistency, really. I was going to say either remove it or keep it, but my preference would be to keep it. So here we have our star card. I think this is so well done. The moon. It just changes the image quite dramatically. I mean, there's nothing additional here, but seeing it through a circular window, it just brings a different perspective. The sun. See, the oh shit squiggle isn't there either. Which, incidentally, the reason why I mention that is because if we take a look at the 1909, it's there. Just next to the X, we've got the little squiggle, which referred to as the oh shit squiggle, and it's not on this 1909 version. Okay, then we have Judgment. Now that looks a little strange. I'm not too keen on the world card. It looks a little, it's almost, you know, it's like, why? I saw a trim job actually of Kim Kranz's Archetypes deck where they just took these sides off, so it was circular top and bottom. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody doesn't do that to this. I mean, I'm not. I'd quite like it. There's the odd card like this one where it just doesn't seem to feel right, but in the whole, rather than go through every card, I've gone through the majors. What I'm going to do now is just do a silent flip through with some music so you can see. You've kind of heard my views on this deck, and I'll come back at the end and add anything else that I want to say. Okay, so what do we think? Let me go to the beginning of the minors. I think it's really well done. I do think it's really well done. Some cards better than others. I like I mean, again, we've got the symbol here that we're used to seeing in the Ace of Cups with this dove, and that appears, doesn't it? That's a problem with circular decks now. On the Hierophant card, which is really interesting. I don't know if it will say anything in the book about the additional imagery. So the Hierophant just gives you keywords. A Hierophant is an opening to the mysteries of life, reflects mankind's attempt to explain the deep and spiritual subtleties of life. He is priest, shaman, yogi, and rabbi. He stands the exterior symbol of religion, recognizable. I suppose they're using the dove of peace really to unify the concept of what he stands for or should stand for. But it doesn't really explain why they've took artistic license and added that in. Some cards I really enjoyed seeing the additional bits. Some it's just an extension, like here. There's just an extension of the image. So this part of the building has been completely created because it stops here in the original. Similarly, with just the curtain, we get additional house here, which at first I was like, oh, because I always imagined this being their homestead and they're looking towards their home and their family life. But they've got neighbours they've got to contend with. Here, a ship added, which, you know, this is my significator card. The ship, going across this water, add something new, something different. I don't know what this is about. It appears again in Four of Swords, I think. We'll have a look, but just this odd bow of flowers just hanging there. I'm like, why? Why has that been added? Again, most other things is pretty much a continuation. This I found quite strange because you see this kind of cityscape in the background and it continues here. But in the original, it stops here. And I imagine this being a solid wall, not just like a, almost like a tree post or something. Because the image stopped there originally, I just assumed that this was somebody, I could see he's outdoors, but this was a wall, but it's a post, according to this artist. Again, just a continuation of the garden. Continuation of the architecture. I think that is a beautiful card now. I always found particularly the King, but the King and Queen of Pentacles, quite a busy card, but actually this is quite beautiful. I really love it when you compare it with the original, which I will quickly do, although you will have just seen it, but I mean, just look at the difference. Such a scrumptious garden, really gorgeous. We see the hair here with Pixie's signature in the middle of it. More clearly, I think it's really, really beautiful. So let's just put that back. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I'm intrigued by it. I'm looking forward to working with it, particularly with that sort of, see more people here in the crowd. Oh yes. Did you spot So when we get to the wands, we have the little gecko added, which wasn't there before. And that just makes you think, okay, so that's something else that you would add in. It's not traditional, but like I said, if this was a deck that was created from scratch, what would you think? What would you add? I liked this concept. So here we've got this ball of fire, and it's almost like something that is, because you can see he's in the walls, he's battle bruised, isn't he? But he's come away from whatever situation he's been in, where he's been injured and wounded. But I like this kind of fire, because we're the wands energy, but I like this kind of fire in the background, indicating that he's coming away and he's facing the future, he's looking forward. There's the little gecko. Again, the only thing we've got different here, we've added some birds into the sky. One of my favourite cards. I love the Two of Swords. I'm glad this has been left as it is. I mean, what else could you really add to the Three of Swords card? These are these boughs of flowers, again, just appearing at each side. I'm not quite sure why. So there you have it, folks. That is the 1909 Tarot Original 1909 by Lo Scarabeo. One of 3 versions available. You can get the little tarot deck with the little white book. You can get the kit with the large book by Sasha Graham. And now you can get the Tarot Circular Edition. But you do have to bear in mind that artistic license has been taken with this deck. Some people, as I say, will love it, others not so much. Let me know your thoughts. Don't hold back. I'm interested in hearing everybody's views, for or against. If you are against it, why? I can imagine why, but I'd like to hear your views. And if you enjoy what you've seen and you're thinking of getting it, what difference do you think it will make to your reading, having these little bits of extra scenery and symbols to bring into your readings? Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you're all having a great week. Oh yeah, thick. It's quite a nice, chunky, thick deck as well. It's really good quality. And yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. And until next time, go in peace. Namaste and blessed be.